Once upon a time, in a remote village, there was a very jealous woman who had a neighbor named Haj Masayeb. Haj Masayeb had a good financial situation and was an honorable and respected man. This woman did not like Haj Masayeb at all and was very jealous of him. She tried to hit Haj Masayeb and hurt him in some way, but every time she tried, a problem would arise, and her efforts would be completely fruitless. Eventually one day, after getting really fed up and realizing that there was always a problem, she decided to take direct action out of her intense jealousy. So, she started baking a sweet, and directly added poison to it, to finish the job. After preparing it early in the morning, the woman waited for Haj Masayeb to come out of his house. As soon as he was about to step outside, she quickly went up to him, and offered him the sweet, and a piece of bread that she had placed on a tray, saying, "This is a charity for the souls of the departed. Here you go." Haj Masayeb, completely unaware of everything, thanked her, and since he was in a hurry to leave the city, wrapped the sweet in the bread, and took it with him. On the way, while sitting in a taxi, he ran into 2 young soldiers. They were quite hungry and were leaving the city to head to the military base. Haj Masayeb saw the sweet in his hand and, out of courtesy, offered it to the 2 soldiers. They were very happy and thanked him, quickly eating the sweet. It didn't take long for the poison to take effect, and both soldiers were poisoned and lost their lives. The taxi driver who witnessed the scene called the police, and they arrested Haj Masayeb and started interrogating him. After a lot of questioning, they finally went to the woman using the address that Haj Masayeb provided. The woman was brought to the police station and shown a picture of 2 bodies that had been killed with her halva. The woman started screaming and crying when she saw the pictures, and then it turned out that yes, the 2 soldiers who were shot and killed were her son and her brother, who had to get to the barracks that day. A few days later, overwhelmed by grief and sadness, she succumbed and died. This is the fate of someone who cannot bear to see the success of others, and through blind jealousy inflicts irreparable harm on both themselves and those around them. If you enjoyed the video, two angels set out for a mission to Earth. They went to the Seret Mandi family's house to spend the night. But the behavior of their family was inappropriate, and they did not allow the 2 angels into their luxurious home. Instead, they were led to a cold basement next to the house. The old angel saw a crack in the basement wall and repaired it. The young angel, who complained about the landlord's inappropriate behavior, Yeduk, refused to repair the wall. "Yes," the old angel replied, "not everything is as you think." The next night, 2 angels went to the poor man's house. They were very hospitable, and after having a light meal, the poor man and woman offered their own bed to the 2 angels, and went to the next room to sleep. The next morning, the angels saw the poor man and woman crying. Their cow, which was their only source of income, had died. The young angel was shocked and asked the old angel why he left everything. "You helped the previous family who had everything and disrespected us, but you let the cow die. For this family who showed you kindness and whose only possession was that cow." The older angel replied, "When we were in the basement of that wealthy family, I saw a case of gold hidden in a crack in the wall. Since they were very greedy and ill-hearted, they sealed the crack and hid the gold inside it. Last night, while we were sleeping in the bed of the poor man and woman, the angel of death came to take the life of the poor woman, and instead, I gave the life of the cow to the angel of death. Everything is not as you think. No, I think that if something happens to us, it all comes with a lot of wisdom and destiny. So until you understand the whole story, never judge. Be patient until you reach a desirable result." And it doesn't recognize the rich or the poor. A relatively poor man entered the pharmacy and said, "I have a wound on my face and it burns a bit." He asked, "Do you have something that can relieve the pain?" The pharmacist brought him a cream and said, "I only have this, but it costs $500. The poor man said, "No, sir, thank you. I can't buy it. Just give me a painkiller and some ointment." The doctor gathered what the man wanted, counted his medications, and the poor man left. After a few minutes, the doctor realizes that it's not the worm, and that he had mistakenly put the worm in the dead man's medicine bag. After about an hour, the doctor saw the poor man return, put the worm on the doctor's table, and said. The man said, "Doctor, you accidentally added this extra item to the bag." The doctor said to him, "It seems it was meant to end up in your bag. Now you would have used it. I made a mistake. Let me calculate." But to the doctor's surprise, the poor man said, "No, I'll save up my money and come back. If I had the money at that time, I would buy it." The doctor took a look at the cream, then glanced at the man and let out a sigh filled with longing for all the honor and humanity that he showed by refusing to take something without paying for it. He was astonished. Some people really shock us. Have you ever encountered such people? The weather was gradually getting warmer, and spring was coming to life. Sarah felt it was time to do something different. She was always immersed in the routine and little tasks. But this time, she had heard something exciting. His old friend Cameron, a young archaeologist, Ulo, excitedly told him that an ancient treasure was hidden in the mountains near their city. A treasure that people only talked about in legends. That's it. Sarah decided to embark on a real adventure. The next morning, Sarah and Cameron set off for the mountains. When they reached the foot of the mountain, the beauty of nature took their breath away. Lush trees, large rocks, and the cool mountain air gave them a special energy. Well, from here on, we need to stay alert. There are all kinds of things in these mountains that could lead us to mysterious places. Let's go. We can handle it. They found the first cave and entered it. It was dark and cold. Only the light from their flashlights illuminated the path. A strange sound echoed from the back of the cave.
What was that? I think it might be an animal, but we need to stay alert.
They moved forward cautiously. The cave wall was covered with strange paintings and symbols. Sarah looked carefully and gradually realized that these might be some kind of guide that could help them. After searching and examining the signs for a long time, they found a new path that led to another cave. But just at that moment, someone blocked their way. Ahmed, Sarah's old rival, who always wanted to outdo her in everything.
What are you doing here? Did you think you could find the treasure? We're here to uncover the truth.
No full competition. You can't stop us either.
Then a little scuffle broke out between them, but Sarah and Cameron managed to handle it, and Ahmed had to back off. With confidence, Sarah and Cameron continued on their path. The next time, everything felt cold. The humid air and the wet stones gave the impression of a very ancient place. Finally, after a lot of searching, they reached a large stone sarcophagus. The surface was covered with beautiful and strange engravings. Sarah carefully opened it. Inside, it was filled with jewels and ancient artifacts. But the ground shook, trapping us. They blocked exits.
We need to hurry, we're getting trapped.
They arrived with all their forces and were blocking the exits. At any moment, the rocks could fall on them. Breathless, they finally made it to the top.
We succeeded. We found the treasure.
But something was different. This treasure wasn't just a bunch of gold and jewels. Rather, it contained a message from an ancient civilization. Something that could bring the past to life for people today. Sarah and Kamara realized that this treasure was more than just a material possession. It had cultural and historical value. Therefore, they decided to preserve it instead of keeping it for themselves, and to share its story with others. Sarah and Cameron returned to the city and began researching and telling the story of this discovery. This adventure taught them that real treasure isn't always gold and silver. Sometimes knowing and understanding an ancient truth is more valuable and important than anything else. This journey strengthened the friendship between them more than ever.
The butcher cut his hand while working with the cleaver. Blood was gushing from his wound. The neighbors gathered around him and quickly took him to the clinic. After disinfecting the wound, the doctor was about to stitch it up when something caught his attention. A small piece of bone was stuck in the wound. At first he wanted to remove it, but then he changed his mind. He bandaged the wound as it was and said, "The wound is clean. You should come every other day to change the dressing." From that day on, every time the butcher went to the clinic, he would bring a piece of meat with him. But no matter how much time passed, the wound just wouldn't heal. Several weeks went by like this until one day the main doctor left town for a business trip. In his place, his young son, who had just become a doctor, came to work at the clinic. That day, the butcher came for a dressing change. The new doctor opened the wound and examined it carefully. Something caught his attention. He removed the piece of bone that was still stuck in the wound, with one swift motion. He closed the wound and said, "You'll heal soon?" 3 days later, the butcher returned happily and said, "Doctor, may God bless you. The wound is healing." The doctor changed the dressing once more and said, "From tomorrow, you don't need to come anymore." A few days later, the main doctor returned from his trip. At the lunch table, he stuck his fork into the food, but there was no sign of the ear. He said to his wife in surprise, "Why is the food here without meat?" His wife gave him a wise look and said, "Your son is not like you, to get meat from the butcher every day." The doctor asked in surprise, "Didn't the butcher come?" His son calmly replied, "Yes, he came, but I healed his wound, so he didn't come back." The doctor slapped his forehead and said, "Oh, you foolish boy. They intentionally left that piece of bone so that we could get meat every day." And that's how the expression "a bone in the wound" came to be used for people who hinder others' progress. Have you ever encountered such people? Thank you for staying with us until the end of the video. And I would appreciate it if you subscribe to the channel to support us. And don't forget to like and comment. Until the next video.